At 71C, sound freezes, and mistakes kill. In the middle of Siberia, a 75-year-old woman stepped outside her cabin during a deadly snowstorm expecting to find only snow and silence. Instead, she heard a cry. Not human, not the wind. Buried beneath the ice was a Siberian tiger cub, freezing to death. Everyone here knows the rule. Where there is a cub, the mother is near. Saving it meant breaking the one law that keeps people alive. But she had seconds to decide. And what she did next would place her face to face with one of the most dangerous predators on Earth. At 71C, Siberia does not forgive mistakes. In the frozen wilderness of Yakutia, where trees crack from the cold and metal shatters like glass, lived a 75-year-old woman named Nurgen. She had no neighbors for dozens of kilometers, no phone signal, no road in winter, just a small wooden cabin, a wood stove, and the knowledge passed down from generations who learned how to survive where most humans never could. That morning, violent snowstorms swallowed the land. The sky and the ground blended into one endless white void. Nurgen wrapped herself in layers of worn fur and stepped outside to collect snow for drinking water. Every breath burned. Each step felt slower than the last. Then she heard it, a sound that did not belong to the storm. At first, she thought it was the wind screaming through the trees, but it came again short, weak, desperate. A cry. Nurgen stopped. Her heart pounded as she followed the sound, walking carefully through knee-deep snow. The cry led her to what looked like untouched ground, but as she stepped closer, the snow collapsed beneath her feet. A hidden pit. She leaned forward and looked down. At the bottom lay a Siberian tiger cub. Before the story continues, if moments like this remind you that compassion still exists in the coldest places on Earth, subscribe to the channel, because these are the stories worth remembering. It was small, too small to survive on its own. Its fur was stiff with ice, its body trembling uncontrollably. The cub tried to move but failed, slipping back into the frozen dirt. Its eyes met hers, dull, exhausted, almost lifeless. Nurgen felt her stomach drop. Everyone in Yakutia knows the rule. Where there is a tiger cub, the mother is near. And a mother tiger is the most dangerous animal on Earth. Leaving the cub meant death for it. Saving it could mean death for her. The storm howled louder, as if urging her to leave. Her hands were already numb. The cold was stealing time from her body with every second she stood still. She turned away. Then the cub cried again. Something inside her broke. Slowly, painfully, Nurgen climbed down into the pit. The walls were slick with ice, her fingers barely gripping the frozen earth. When she reached the cub, it did not resist. It barely had the strength to lift its head. She wrapped it inside her coat, pressing its frozen body against her chest. The climb back up felt endless. By the time she reached her cabin, her legs were shaking, her vision blurred, and the storm had nearly erased her tracks. She shut the door behind her and collapsed onto the floor. Inside her cabin, beside the faint glow of the wood stove, Nurgen looked down at what she had done. She had brought a tiger cub into her home, and somewhere out there in the blizzard, its mother was searching. The cabin was silent except for the crackle of burning wood. Nurgen placed the tiger cub near the stove, carefully removing her coat. The cub lay still at first, its breathing shallow and uneven. Frost clung to its whiskers. One paw twitched weakly. She knelt beside it, rubbing its body with trembling hands, trying to bring warmth back into frozen flesh. The cub let out a faint sound, not fear, but pain. Nurgen warmed pieces of frozen fish over the fire and offered them slowly. At first, the cub refused. Its body was too weak. Then, instinct took over. It took a small bite, then another. Hours passed. Outside, the storm continued to rage, battering the cabin like an angry spirit. Inside, the cub's breathing slowly steadied. Its eyes opened wider now, following Nurgen as she moved. Trust began to form, not because the cub understood kindness, but because survival demanded it. As night fell, exhaustion overcame Nurgen. She sat in her chair, watching the cub rise shakily onto its legs. It took a few uncertain steps, then collapsed again near the warmth. She knew she could not keep it. By morning, the mother tiger would come. That night, sleep came in fragments. Every sound made her flinch. The wind against the walls sounded like footsteps, the snapping of wood like claws against the door. She dreamed of eyes watching from the forest. At dawn, an unnatural silence fell. No wind, no storm. Then it happened. The light at her window disappeared. A massive shadow blocked the rising sun. Nurgen stood slowly, her heart pounding so loudly she was sure it could be heard outside. She approached the window and looked out. A Siberian tiger stood just meters from her cabin. Its body was enormous, its fur striped with snow and ice, its eyes fixed on the door. The cub stirred behind her. Nurgen understood immediately. The mother had come. Fear rooted Nurgen to the floor. One wrong move could trigger an attack. Tigers do not hesitate. They do not warn. The cub let out a soft sound, recognizing something familiar beyond the walls. The tiger outside responded with a low, deep rumble that vibrated through the cabin. Nurgen's hands shook. She knew what she had to do. Slowly, deliberately, she walked to the door. She opened it just enough for the cold air to rush in. The tiger did not move, but its muscles tensed like coiled steel. Nurgen stepped aside. The cub walked past her. For a moment, everything froze. Then the mother tiger stepped forward and pressed her head gently against her cub. No aggression, no roar, just recognition. The tiger lifted her head and looked at Nurgen. Their eyes met. Seconds passed that felt like a lifetime. Then the tiger turned away, leading her cub back into the forest. Snow swallowed their shapes within moments. Nurgen collapsed to her knees. She was alive. Life returned to silence. Not suddenly, not completely, but slowly, like the land itself exhaling after holding its breath for too long. The storm never truly left Siberia, yet something had shifted. The wind no longer felt hostile. The forest no longer seemed empty. It was as if the land had witnessed what happened and quietly accepted it. Days passed. Nurgen returned to her routines. She gathered snow for water, chopped wood with aching hands, and fed the small fire that kept death at bay each night. But everything felt different now. The cabin no longer felt like a place of isolation, it felt like a place that had been chosen. Sometimes, she would pause mid-task, listening, not because she expected the tiger to return, but because she had learned the value of stillness. In silence, she had heard a life calling for help. In silence, she had made the most dangerous decision of her long life. Weeks passed. The snow covered the last traces of the tiger's footprints. The forest swallowed the memory as it always did. Yet inside the cabin, the presence remained. The spot near the stove where the cub had slept stayed warmer than the rest of the floor. Or perhaps that was only in her mind. At night, Nurgen dreamed of amber eyes watching from the trees, not with hunger, but with understanding. Eventually, the story traveled beyond the forest. Hunters spoke in whispers of an old woman who had touched the untouchable. Travelers repeated the tale as if it were legend. Some crossed frozen rivers in endless tundra just to sit in her cabin and hear it from her own mouth. They expected a hero. They found a quiet woman who served them tea. When they asked her why she had done it, she never gave the answer they wanted. "I didn't think," she said. "Thinking is slow. The cold is fast." Others asked if she was afraid. She nodded. "Fear kept me alive for 75 years. But it doesn't tell you when to stay." Some called her brave. Some called her foolish. Some said she was blessed. Nurgen rejected every label. "I just listened," she told them. "The land speaks. The animal speaks. If you are quiet enough, you hear what must be done." As winter tightened its grip once more, Nurgen sat alone by her stove, staring into the flames. Outside, the forest stood unchanged, ancient, indifferent, eternal. Yet somewhere out there, a tiger cub was alive, because one woman chose compassion over instinct. In the coldest place on earth, where life is fragile and fear is necessary, kindness had proven stronger than survival, and the land remembered. In a world this cold, even a small act of kindness can change a life. If stories like this remind you what it truly means to be human, subscribe to the channel, because the most powerful survival stories are the ones where compassion wins.